Okay, everybody, welcome to a very special Prog Report podcast. I'm going to get right to it and welcome our very special guest, Hall of Fame legendary drummer from Def Leppard, Rick Allen. Rick, thank you for being here, man.
Fantastic. Very nice introduction. Thank you. I keip forgetting we got inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Is that crazy? Yeah, we want to talk about that with you a little bit. You know, I bet there's a lot of people maybe that watch our podcast that are thinking, Prog, Def Leppard isn't Prog. Why are you talking about them on this podcast? But I just want to mention this. If you've been paying any attention to our podcast over the years we've been doing it, one, you know I'm a huge Def Leppard fan. I've not been shy about that. And also, we like to cover a lot of things. So we've done stuff on the Beatles, ELO, Deep Purple. You know, we've had Kip Winger on. We like all sorts of stuff on here. And our audience is very diverse. And when you get a chance to talk to a Hall of Fame legendary drummer, you take it. So there you go.
That's cool. And I think one of the things that people don't realize about Def Leppard is if you do dig back into our distant past.
Yeah.
When I listened to us, we were a full-on prog rock band.
Oh, for sure.
Overture. Come on.
No.
Yeah, go back to the first record. I mean, it's right there. So.
No, I know.
Yeah, and I know you guys have had some of that stuff in your influences and all that. So I want to talk about all that. But the reason why we're having you on, which is really cool, you're kicking back up your art appearances with a few dates in Florida, which is where I'm based out of. So we got May 20th. I'm reading them here. Excuse me. We got May 20th on La Solis at the Wentworth Galleries. They're all at Wentworth Galleries. May 21st, Seminole Hard Rock and Casino. That place is amazing. Really cool inside. And that's that big guitar. Anybody's probably seen that, the big guitar hotel, which is just awesome.
You can see it from space.
Yeah, it's wild. It's really cool. And May 22nd at the Boca Raton Town Center Mall, you'll be featuring some of your art that you've had in the past, some new items, and a portion of the sales go to your charity, Project Resiliency, and some other stuff. So we want to talk about that. But first, you guys were supposed to get on that big stadium tour last year, and I know you guys tour year round all the time, and then COVID hits. I mean, have you been? What was your year like to this point? I mean, tell us about it.
I was a little rudderless, maybe a little depressed at times at first, but then it kind of became a blessing because, myself, my wife, and my youngest daughter, we all play music. My daughter's a pretty proficient pianist at this point. And then, of course, the art, that was, it sort of gave me a place to go and just kind of occupy my time. And, I've been producing a lot of it, which is fantastic. So it's kind of a family thing, my daughter seems to think that everybody sings and dances and, plays instruments all the time and paints and, which is great.
That's great.
I love the fact that she's growing up in a really creative household,
Yeah.
So it was difficult, but now I'm really seeing the virtue, it's, like I say, I produced a ton of art. I worked on a really cool Johnny Cash. I worked on a really cool Kurt Cobain, and then I did a couple of Eddie Van Halen's.
Nice.
So I've been pretty busy.
That's awesome, man. It's like, I think one of two things could happen for any of us during the last year. You could either just get fat and lazy, or you could get busy. And it sounds like you've been real productive, which is awesome. So I want to ask you a question about your art, but if you'll indulge me for a minute, I want to kind of frame it out a little bit here, because I want to talk to you about who you are as a person and who you are as a musician and artist and even a philanthropist. So go back in the time machine. It's 1983. I'm 12 years old and I see Photograph come on MTV, right? I beg my mom to take me to the record store. I buy Pyromania, I bring it home and just lose my mind. I then beg her the next day to go back and buy High and Dry and On Through the Night. And I became just a massive fan literally overnight. But I remember looking at the pictures of all you guys going, man, these guys look pretty young. You know, they weren't, you weren't Led Zeppelin, you weren't Deep Purple, you weren't like my dad's age. You were close to my age, right? I was 12, and I came to find out that you were only 7 years older than me. And I thought, how great is this, that somebody in my generation can be on MTV and touring, you know, the world. And so fast forward a couple years, 1984, obviously, New Year's Eve, your accident and all that happened there. And I remember reading about it the next morning in my local newspaper, and I clipped out the article that talked about you losing your arm. And I thought, how terrible. This guy's so young. How could he ever come back from this? And I put that newspaper article in my wallet, which, by the way, was a Def Leppard wallet, of course, because I'm fashion forward. But and I had the British flag shirt and shorts and sweatshirt and everything else you can imagine. But I put that clipping in my wallet, and my high school years were 84 to 88. So, you know, you're a teenager, you're trying to figure out girls, you're trying to figure out what you're going to be in life. And you've got a lot of challenges as a teenager, right?
Sure.
Every time I had a challenge, I'd look at that newspaper clipping, and I think, if this guy can come back from that and be a world-class drummer twice, like, what can't I do? So I got a lot of inspiration from that. Fast forward to 2002. Bear with me. We're coming around to your art, I promise. 2002, I'm in the music industry. I work for Sony Music Entertainment. A friend of mine gets me a meet and greet passes to come meet you guys at a little club in Hollywood. And I remember meeting you, and there was a genuineness about you that kind of took me back, because I had worked with a lot of artists, a lot of kind of big, fancy, rich rock stars who, you know, had a bit of an ego. And you sat down with me, you pulled me over to this little booth, and you were autographing some things. And I told you about this story about this newspaper clipping and how much it inspired me. And, you know, Rick, at this point, you had been a famous musician for 20 years. I would not have been surprised if you went, yeah, thanks, appreciate it. Okay, next autograph, you know. But you looked me right in the eyes. You listened to everything I said. I felt like I was the only person in the room. And there was just a realness about you. And, you know, I was blown away that you were just this down-to-earth guy. And I see through, you know, just through social media, through all the stuff that you do with charity, that you're that same guy now, even 20 years later. So I get up to, I had told you earlier in the conversation, my goal in life for 20 years was to get a picture with the whole band. I didn't want to take any more of your time. You were so gracious to me. I stand up to let somebody else come and talk to you. And you stood up behind me, and you grabbed the back of my shirt and kind of pulled me back a little bit. And you said, guys, you know, Joe's over there, Phil's over there. Guys, Kyle wants to take a picture with the band. Let's get together and take a picture with Kyle.
Oh, cool.
And you said my name twice, and my head exploded. I just thought, like, who is this guy that he's so cool that he could very easily be very jaded, you know? But I really appreciate that about you, man. I think you've taken that into your art. You've taken that into what you do with charity. And I salute you for being a down-to-earth human being. So I just wanted to say that.
That's very
nice
cool.
Story, Kyle.
That's pretty elaborate, but I do appreciate that, and I think it's not always success that allows people to grow, and I think to have a few setbacks in life kind of gets you back to what's real, what's important, and you know, like I was saying before, you know, about family, and then, you know, people that come and meet me, or people that come and say hello on the street, you know, they'll say things like, you know, I really don't want to bother you. I'm like, you know what? It's when people stop coming up and saying, I don't want to bother you. You know what I mean? It's like, you're not bothering me, because in reality, I know I'm not going to be doing this forever. And, you know, it doesn't take much for me to make people happy. And that's a really nice story. And I hope I hear more stories from more people like that. I really appreciate that, Kyle.
Well, thank you, man. Thank you. Well, so let's talk about your art. I know you've been very prolific. I know you talked about Eddie Van Halen, and I know I've seen some of your work with you've done Lennon, you've done Bowie, you've done even your photographic art with your lighted drumsticks. For anybody that hasn't seen that, you can find some of that online. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And then I know you do actual art on actual drums, which I hope to have in my collection one of these days. But what can you tell us about how you got started outside of musical art and working in photography and painting?
really when I was a kid, you know, I mean, there'd be more paint on the floor and the ceiling than on the paper. But I just love to express myself in that way and just kind of get really physical with it. Uh, you know, then I discovered photography and music pretty much in that order. Um, and you know, fast forward, my 10-year-old, you know, we started painting together, and it just kind of brought it all back to me. And I saw that it took her to the same place that I go when I play music. You know, just totally in the moment, and just totally in my heart, and just really into it. So we started painting together, and it just sort of it just sparked my inspiration again. And I didn't want to show people the stuff for a long time, and then my wife convinced me that you know, you really should. You should show people what you've been doing. And then I was approached by Scene 4 to do some of the light art. You know, it was basically long exposure photography using light sticks, and you know, it was really cool. Because what I'd do is I'd play along to certain songs, and there always seemed to be a connection with the imagery and the song that I was playing. So it was kind of cool, abstract, but really cool. And then I was approached by Wentworth Gallery, and that's when I really started to get into faces, and just faces and flags and iconic sort of imagery from growing up in England. And then, you know, when I first came to America in 1980, and you know, so it's really a collection of life experiences, just all these things that come together, and you know, just really inspire me to you know, to paint. It's I think that the foundation of it all is really the legends pieces. They're the ones that really
they're great.
that I'm the most proud of. The first one I did was Steve Clark, actually. And
I've seen that one. It's so good. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. And the cool thing was, when I finished it, I sent a photograph of it to my mother, and my mother keeps in touch with Beryl, with his mom, and she sent a copy of it to his mom, and she shed a tear, and you know, she was like, wow, you know, he captured Steve's essence really well, which was a massive compliment and a huge boost, and it made me want to continue painting, you know, musicians, and you know, just all these gods, you know, these people that were just, they inspired me to want to play music. So I thought, what better way to pay homage than to paint them? You know, more recently I did Johnny Cash, who he's such the original bad boy. And then I did a really cool Kurt Cobain recently that I love. I really didn't want to let go of that one, but unfortunately I had to. And then I did two Eddie Van Halens. Now, the Eddie Van Halen piece, kind of, for me, it goes back a long way. My best friend, when I was growing up, 1978, he calls me up, rotary dial, of course. Says, Rick, you got to come over. I've got this record I want to play. So he plays me the first Van Halen record. I'm totally blown away.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like it in my entire life. A couple of months later, Van Halen are coming through, opening for Black Sabbath. And honestly, that show was Van Halen's. You could see that Black Sabbath were in the throes of disintegration. You know, it just wasn't what I remembered. You know, I'd seen Black Sabbath before, but this particular show, you know, Black Sabbath were headlining, but really, Van Halen was so hungry and so good. It was such an exciting show, probably one of the best shows I've ever seen. Fast forward, I settled in the States in '91 in sort of Studio City area. Steve Lukather happens to be my neighbor, and he calls me up one day. He says, Rick, we're having a get together. I really want to meet you. I really want you to meet somebody. I want you to meet Eddie Van Halen. So I go, and I was kind of starstruck, with all the history of looking up to this, this iconic band. Sure. And I wasn't disappointed. He was very unassuming. You wouldn't have thought that he did what he did for a living. I mean, just one of the most incredible. I think between Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen, I think they changed the face of guitar playing forever.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my little story. I didn't know him well, but it was fantastic that I got to meet him. And when I painted the pieces, obviously I was thinking of him and his family, and just what a huge loss. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's great. Looking forward to seeing those for sure.
Cool.
Yeah, your artwork really is. I think there's a lot of celebrities that from one realm, like actors or whatever, that they might try to become a painter or a singer or whatever. And sometimes you go, oh, yeah, you should kind of stick to your thing. But when I look at your artwork, I go, man, how much talent do you have to be able to do what you do in the music world, but to be able to do on different mediums in art? You're really a talented guy.
I learned this one technique where I kind of dumb down. It's almost like posterizing. So it's not necessarily realism, but it's a way that if you stick to the rules when you're sketching, you can create a grayscale. And it's really what somebody's face looks like when light bounces off of it. When you look at those pieces up close, they look like geometric shapes. They don't necessarily make that much sense. But when you stand back, your mind fills in the blanks, and that's kind of the illusion. I love that. I picked that up from, I love Salvador Dali. That was, a lot of his pieces were like that. You'd look at it in one way, and then you'd either squint your eyes or stand back or whatever, and it would turn into something else. So I really wanted to take that and use that technique.
How long does it take you to make one piece like the Eddie Van Halen piece? Is this like a couple of days, a couple of months?
Under painting, just thin paint, basic, probably a couple of 3 weeks on and off,
Yeah.
Well, I know the night that we met, you had told me about, now this was 19 years ago, you told me about the Raven Drum Foundation. So I want to talk a little bit about your charity. And I know you told me then that you had formed that with your wife, Lauren Monroe, which if anybody doesn't know Lauren Monroe, she's a great artist in her own right. She's a great singer-songwriter. You can listen to, see a lot of her videos on YouTube.
Certainly is.
She's awesome. So I think it's really cool that you guys found each other, and clearly you have a heart for people, and I think you feel there's healing in music and the power of music.
For sure.
And that you guys formed Raven Drum, and then I think Project Resiliency maybe came out of that.
That's right.
You work with wounded warriors and at-risk youth and veterans and people that have suffered trauma. Tell us maybe a little bit about how your photography and your painting is incorporated into all the charity work that you do.
Well, it was a natural fit for me because of my own PTSD and my own struggles, with traumatic brain injury. And, we formed Raven Drum in 2002 and worked with many different parts of the population. But then specifically in 2006, I visited Walter Reed Army Medical Center, and I saw tremendous suffering. And it really hit me hard. So I remember getting back to the hotel, called my wife up, really in tears. And I said, we really have to refocus and do something specifically for our veterans. And that was when we formed Project Resiliency. And it's been super satisfying, to be of service and, just to inspire people. and the realization that I had a lot in common, not necessarily from combat trauma, but from my car accident. It was horrific, and I meet so many people, whether those are sports injuries or abusive relationships, you name it. You'd be surprised how many of us have been through some form of traumatic event. But I just built this kinship with our warriors because I could relate to so many things, not the combat part of it, but the trauma part of it.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a natural fit. Donating a portion of the proceeds from the artwork to various programs for our vets. So that's really where it came from.
That's
awesome. Amazing. No, fantastic work you're doing. I want to just give a shout out again for the dates. Thursday, May 20th in Los Olas, Friday, May 21st at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel, and Saturday, May 22nd in Boca at Wentworth Galleries. Info is at rickallen.com. And I'm sure on Facebook or Wentworth Galleries, they have a website as well, and you can find out all the info. Check this stuff out. Go say hi. Let's go ahead and jump into the top 5, and then we'll talk, lots of stories along the way. We want to talk some Def Leppard. So what we're going to do is the topic that we settled on here is top 5 Def Leppard deep cuts, because we want to give some love to some of the tracks that are not the hits. Now, removing the hits is removing about half the Def Leppard catalog, so that's the problem there. But, everybody knows Pour Some Sugar on Me, Photograph, Rock of Ages, Animal, the list goes on. We want to talk about some of the other songs that we really love. So with that said, Rick, if you're okay, we'd like to give you the first one. So you're number 5, and we'll count them down from there. And then Kyle, you'll go, and then I'll go.
Well, I just got this in the mail, so I got a vinyl copy of this.
Nice.
And it was really cool. It was really cool for me listening back to what I call the 2-arm years, and realizing that Def Leppard were a full-on prog rock band. I mean, a lot of that music was really quite intricate and just kind of experimental. We were just we were doing what felt natural to us, and I'm just really impressed with the way that this thing was recorded and how old it is. These are actually live versions. Some of them are slightly faster than the original. But,
it happens.
Yeah, it does. I was kind of full of beans at that particular moment in time. I wasn't. I was young, and very excitable. So, I think it'd be nice for people to hear some of these or listen to some of these songs and realize, where we came from. So, it's not all about the hits. Sometimes it's about the stuff that you don't hear. So, I think a good one to start with is Good Morning Freedom.
Yeah.
Great song.
It's like one of the very first songs, right?
Yeah, and I used to play traditional grip, and it was really easy for me to get those little drags on those little roughs on my left hand. So that little drum riff that I start with is actually really cool. It's kind of tricky for me to play it now because I have to play the drag or the rough with the right hand. But I think that's a great example of just a great rock song that was early days for Def Leppard.
Is that released, that vinyl? Is that a record store day thing? Is that where I saw that, or is that just coming out as a separate item?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I know it's been around. I'm not sure if the actual vinyl is a new thing, like you say, for record. Yeah,
because you guys always put something out for that, which is really cool too. That's a great first choice. Nice. Kyle, you want to go?
So for me, it was weird to try to pick a deep cut because I'm pretty familiar with the entirety of your catalog. And for me, it was like Def Leppard was just one body of work. It wasn't like hits and B-sides and remixes and extended versions. So a couple of these were tough for me to pick. But the first one was a little bit more recent. When Mirrorball came out, full disclosure, I didn't buy it because I'm not a huge live record guy. And but I did not realize, I hear Undefeated, and I hear the song, I'm like, what is this? It's a great song. And then a buddy of mine was like, oh, they put out 3 new songs on Mirrorball. So of course I went out and bought it. I love the super positive lyrics on there, the whole, kind of fighting back and overcoming adversity and all that stuff. And your drums are just like thunder on that song. It's just a great anthem, I think, didn't you guys open a tour with that?
Yeah, a couple of tours. Yeah,
a couple of tours. Yeah, and that was really it was a great idea from Joe. He wanted to come up with a song that just lent itself really well to just playing in an arena, something that sounded larger than life. So good choice, man. That's a fantastic song.
Great song.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites of like the last 10, 15 years. It's really great song. And all 3 of those really were really good. It's All About Believin' and Kings of the World, I think, is the other one.
That's right.
Very cool songs.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm going to go also kind of way back to the High and Dry record, and On Through the Night. It's going to be my first choice, which is just, that's sort of, the whole middle of that song is kind of the proggy thing there for me on that album. That's a full-on metal song. And, it was always one that I really liked, but I love that whole album. But when you did the Viva Hysteria and you did the, where you opened for yourselves on that tour.
Dead Flatbird.
Yeah. And you did and you did a version of that song on there. Totally kind of changed my view of it even more. It was like, oh my God, I forgot how amazing that song is. And it because I never heard it live really that I could remember. So yeah, I'm going to go On Through the Night from that song. I'm actually curious about the title. Obviously a sort of a throwback to the title of the album. Was that intentional? Was that song written during the On Through the Night sessions and held back?
I think that's what happened, and it was just a little sort of tease in a way, so I believe that's how it happened. Sometimes my memory's a little hazy. Hey, you know what they say? If you remember the '80s, you weren't there.
You weren't there.
That's right. Yeah, hard to pick one from High and Dry, but I'm going to go there because that's.
Oh, cool.
That's a perfect record. All right, you're number 4.
I'm going to stick with this one.
Okay.
And I actually helped write this song. I wrote the middle instrumental section, or at least the rhythm to it. Lady Strange.
Oh,
nice.
Awesome song. Almost made my top
too.
Yeah. That, as I say, it was fantastic, to be a part of it, and everybody was really open to everybody, bringing their ideas to the table, and I was very fortunate that the guys were open to it. So yeah, very proud of that song.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
Again, man, that's such a hard record to pick songs from.
Yeah.
It's like
I went High and Dry for the next one. Mirror Mirror. It starts with that awesome Steve Clark guitar riff, and it almost has like a Kashmir kind of chord progression to it. That's what I love about it. It just gets you right from the beginning, but it's got that kind of creepy emotional vocal, and then the verses are a little sparse. They breathe a little bit, and then you get to that super heavy, intense chorus. And I was never quite sure what it was about, but I think I listened to it recently. It was like somebody kind of looking at their life and kind of doing some soul searching. I don't know if you can confirm or deny. I don't know. You probably didn't write the lyrics.
I can relate to that. We've been doing that for our entire careers, I think most of our songs have that there's an air of that, particularly the deeper cuts. They're not necessarily always as happy as,
right.
to pour some sugar on me,
with that song, you know, one of the things that I know you guys get asked about a lot, and I've heard Joe talk about it in picking set lists for concerts, and how difficult it is, because you guys are of the mind that fans are coming to see the hits. We're going to give them the hits. And when you have as many as you have, it leaves maybe room for one or two extra songs you can throw in occasionally, right? So one of those ones that has been one of those is Mirror Mirror. How does that one make the cut to sneak in versus all the other ones that maybe you can choose from?
It's so much fun to play.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so cool. And, you know, as you suggested, you know, the riff is, you know, it's, you know, Steve was just this massive Jimmy Page fan. So, you know, when you hear a riff like that, you know, how can you not want to play it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's great. Sing it live. All right, I'll jump in. Oh, go ahead.
No. Is it my turn again?
No, I'm up. I got my number 4.
Sorry.
I'm going to fast forward many years to the Retroactive record and Desert Song. That's going to be my number 4, which is, oh man, that song blew me. The first time I heard that one before the song got released, just blew my mind, because it was as heavy as you guys had been in years. I mean, just super powerful, very kind of Led Zeppelin-y, but just pounding. And that's as prog as you could get for something like that. I mean, where does that song come from even at that point? Because at that point, you guys were into the writing hits and the whole thing. I mean, that song is just like this prog epic kind of thing. Where does that come from?
I just think it was Def Leppard touching base with its past. Yeah. And as you suggest, you know, taking that sort of that Zeppelin influence, you know, something that was a little more left field, a little more mystical, you know. But yeah, I mean, just a fantastic song to play, and that was what was so appealing to me, because it just wanted to be just played as loud as you possibly could. So yeah, what a fantastic song.
Very cool, nice. Oh yeah, you're number 3.
I'd say we just did it recently. We did it recently. You know, we did it at the residency that we did in Vegas. We opened with Die Hard the Hunter. There
you go. That was so cool to see that open that show, man. I can't tell you. That was, and I had just watched the YouTube video because I found out that you opened for it, and it was kind of making the rounds online. And it was like, holy wow, Joe can still sing this. It was like amazing. I couldn't, it was like blown away.
Yeah. No, it was just really exciting. And, you know, as you suggested, you can't always make everybody happy all of the time. And when you do a residency like that, it's lovely because you know that the people are out there are super diehard fans.
Right.
And it wouldn't be wasted on, you know, on a more intimate sort of crowd like that. So that was one of the reasons for playing a song that a lot of people would have said, "You on," you know, like, you know, I just want to hear the hits. But I think it was a fantastic choice for us.
Yeah, and it's on the DVD. You released a DVD and Blu-ray of that show, and a year ago, I think it was. That's out, and that's really cool. That song's amazing. Was it tough to relearn that one after so many years?
Yes, it was. But I play a game of substitution where if I can't play something cleanly, you know, with right hand or, you know, combination of right hand, left foot, then I'll just, you know, substitute, bringing in my right foot. So I'm not necessarily playing exactly the same fills, but I'm doing an interpretation of it that conjures up the right vibe.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. Awesome.
Very cool.
Good choice. Kyle, you're number 3.
So great minds here. Number 3, Die Hard the Hunter.
Are we all going Die Hard on number 3?
So come back with me, like at the start of the podcast. Come back to my 13-year-old bedroom where I got Def Leppard posters on the walls. I hear that song, and there's like the helicopter and the sirens and the gunfire, and you're like, what is this? Like, this isn't a song about chicks and cars and stuff, which you're used to hearing from all that early '80s stuff. But it was storytelling going on, and as we've already referred to, like the overture from the original EP, and you guys had a knack for writing a catchy earworm like Animal or Sugar, and then you had stuff like Die Hard the Hunter. It was just next level stuff. You guys, that's what set you apart from other bands from the '80s that kind of came and went,
That's cool.
Great song. Still love that song. I still listen to Joe belting out, that Die Hard and Proud and that 22-year-old Joe Elliott voice. You're like, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah,
great song.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Rick, I wanted to ask you about the Hall of Fame while we're doing this, because the nomination just came out recently, and more inductions and stuff. To talk about that a little bit, about that whole nominating and the emotional ceremony. I mean, that was pretty great to watch.
To be honest, when I first heard it, it was a bit of an inconvenience. Because I just got home, and I really wanted to just be at home. I was burned, But then we all went to New York and started doing press, I think for 4 or 5 days before we did the actual ceremony. And as we started doing the press, I realized how much of a big deal this was. And I think the thing that really struck all of us was the fact that, this had been the largest fan vote in the history of the Hall of Fame. And that to us was massive. We always felt as though we didn't get enough love from the industry. But we always got tons of love from our fans. They were just super, and still are, super loyal. So that was hugely important. And then just leading up to the show, doing the whole Howard Stern thing, and just how big of a deal this was. And then, the day of, Brian May, and, I mean, to have the front man of Mott the Hoople, on stage with us was just, Ian Hunter, he's incredible, man.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Written some of the best songs on the planet, and then standing up on that stage and seeing the entire industry in front of us, and then looking over and, Def Leppard fans going completely nuts. And then how heartfelt, Joe's whole speech was. It just really took me back, and really, it was just very emotional. And I'm very happy that happened to this band. I really think out of all the bands that I know, Def Leppard deserve it.
100%.
Yeah,
I
it
watched
was
that
and also for the fans, it was sort of like validation. Like,
absolutely,
we were right.
Yeah. That's exactly how I felt. I felt like I backed the right horse in 1983. Right.
Yeah,
and I know there were fans that were fans from the first record, but I watched that ceremony with my wife and my 14-year-old son, who is as old as I was when I first got into you guys. And when you got that standing O and the tears are coming down your face, like I literally, it's just the three of us in our living room, and I stood up and I kind of like I saluted you. I was just like, good for you and good for all you guys, because you deserve to be there.
That's very cool. I appreciate that.
All right, I'm gonna go, and I'll tell you, my number 3 was also going to be Die Hard, but I'm going to make a quick substitution so that we can add another song into the mix here, and it's an easy one because I'm going to go Billy's Got a Gun.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
To close, same record, it's closing the second side. I mean, it's sort of like the sister song to Die Hard in a way on that record, and such a cool, like, again, it's one of those story kind of songs. And I mean, as a kid listening to that song was great, but also the little drum loop thing at the end was also killer. Yep. So that was a great little bit to throw in there. I never heard the story behind that drum loop and why that was there.
The March of the Ziltrons, we used to call it, and Thomas Dolby actually did the keyboards on that record.
Right.
He was
I remember that. Yeah.
friend of Matt Lang's. So he just had these killer loops. And I think it was just something he was playing around with. And we all said, wow, what's that? You know? And the original idea was that the soundtrack never ended because the vinyl would keep going round on the turntable. And we basically just made a loop of it. So it didn't stop until you actually took the needle off the vinyl.
I got to test that.
Yeah, it works. Well, hopefully, if you don't have a newfangled, turntable,
right,
they call them.
Right. That's great.
You just stole my choice.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Oh, wow.
No, let's keep it. We'll go
We're
right
all
into
in
your
sync,
number
man.
two.
That's funny.
Also, Billy's Got a Gun then, I guess. Also a song you played live in Vegas. So you put in both those.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just such an exciting song to play, I love it. Billy's Got a Gun. It's fantastic. Just that slow build, you know what I mean?
When you guys were putting that set list together with Die Hard and Billy's Got a Gun, how did the decision come? Did everybody just say, okay, we're each going to throw in a few songs? Is there negotiating? I'll let you have this one if you give me that one. Or how does it work on a show like that?
It's funny. We're normally all on the same page. There's a list of songs, and then it's like we visualize the show. How will that roll out? And we're like, you know what? Die Hard is a great opener. It's just lends itself perfectly because of the whole soundtrack at the beginning, right. And it's just got this epic thing about it. And what a way to come out on stage. It's just such an impact.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Kyle, you're number two.
Sorrow Is a Woman.
Wow.
From the first album. Yeah,
Going
man.
way back. There you go.
Again, I keep taking you guys back to the teenage version of me, but at 12, 13 years old, you're starting to kind of notice girls, right? And trying to figure them out. And I hear this song and it's like, to me, the lyrics were saying, woman equals sorrow equal trouble, and like I had an older brother who was 4 or 5 years older than me. And I think he was dating at the time. He was like, yeah, girls are a lot of trouble. So that's how I saw that song. And then, but I think I went back recently, listened to it. It's more like a guy trying to encourage a girl who maybe doesn't have the highest self-esteem, so it's a totally different song now that I hear it. But I love how heavy it is. And then it kicks into that little pseudo jazzy thing. Like you're hitting the rim, man. You're playing a little jazz drum thing on there. And then it goes back and forth between that and just being a rocker. Very different for a band in 1980 to release a song like Sorrow Is a Woman, man. I love that one.
Oh, for sure. But that was going back to just, I was listening to, music from the 70s, something that was a little more self-indulgent, should I say.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I'm so excited to pick this song. My number two is, I don't know if it's considered an underrated album for you guys or not. It's one of my favorite albums, and it's Euphoria. And I just think it's an amazing record. And I'm going to go with Paper Sun, which is one of the greatest songs ever. And when I heard that song, when that album came out, it was like, wow, they went back. It was like the reason why that album is so great. It's like a mix of all the stuff you guys had done prior in the years on kind of one record. There's a little of Pyromania in there. There's a little Hysteria in there. There's a little bit of High and Dry in there. It's just it's the perfect sort of mix album for me. And Promises, another. I wouldn't pick Promises because that's a hit, but that's another one of my favorites. But Paper Sun was like super epic, just the whole guitar solo ending. And I love that you guys have been playing that live occasionally. Just a tremendous, tremendous song. One of my favorites.
Great.
That's cool. Yeah, we tried to switch it up a little bit, and that's another one of those songs. It's such a cool riff. That opening riff is just like, I just love it, and the power of that song just sitting on that tempo and just sinking into that whole vibe. It's just everybody's got to play that song once in their life.
The thing that I always appreciated about your albums, and I think it's what, again, like Kyle said, was set you guys apart, was that even with an album like Adrenalize or anything, you always threw in some of these longer epics, the heavier songs, things like that, for those fans that also like those, because you could have done straight up hit, 3-4 minute hit songs on every album, and those are fantastic too, but just always being able to mix that, to balance that. Even on an album like X, you throw in like a song like Scar. I mean, I always thought that was such a cool thing, and always what I appreciated about how you approached music.
No, I appreciate that, man. It's good to switch it up, and again, doing the Vegas thing, that affords us so much. We can try things out that we wouldn't normally.
Yeah.
Was Work It Out? Was that a hit?
I mean, it was a single, right?
Yeah.
That definitely was a single.
Okay. I'd forgotten, because that was actually, I don't think too many people necessarily heard that. I think Slang sort of, it was one of those records that wasn't the most popular, but it grew on people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
It
was unexpected at the time from what you guys were known for sure.
Right.
That's true, but the whole Seattle thing was happening, and it just, what we were doing just seemed a little old. It just seemed tired, and we were like, you know what? Let's just play. Let's do something that's really raw, and I think that's what Def Leppard really sound like, without all the intricate sort of harmonies. Something a little more just raw, and I think that whole record, for me, I love listening to it. I could pick any song from that record, and
so are you going with Work It Out? Is that your number one?
Are we at number one already?
Yeah.
You're kidding. Oh, of course. You know what? It's kind of cheating, because it was a single,
But you're the drummer, so you can pick whatever.
You could pick another. If you like all the songs, you pick another one.
I just do either of you have a favorite from that? I mean, Turn to Dust, I thought.
I was going to say Turn to Dust would be my go-to on that record. And I've actually talked to Kyle about this before. There's a B-side original version of Truth.
Oh yeah.
Which I love too, because that's sort of like a much heavier version of it, which is very cool if anybody's had a chance to check that out. But I'd probably go Turn to Dust. That's amazing.
Yeah, and the title track, I still love that.
Fantastic. I believe it was Craig Pruitt that helped us with the whole string arrangement.
Okay.
And sadly, Craig isn't with us anymore. But that was huge. That the whole sort of Indian sort of string section, and all the fantastic percussion, tabla. And it was just monstrous. I really love that song. I could play that song all day.
Nice. All right.
I think it was the right choice.
Is that your number one? We'll go with that one.
Yes.
There you go.
That's a great choice.
I think Slang was the right choice for what was that, 96? If you guys had made another Adrenalize or Hysteria, it just wouldn't have worked. You had to do that.
I think so. I think so.
It was the right move.
What a weird time. I mean, for all the bands from that era to go through that period, and very few survived, right? So I mean, you guys did, which is great.
It was tricky. It was time for reflection. It was like how far we'd gone, and then to just kind of step back and go, let's not go there. Let's just make something that makes us really happy. That's just us, and it's raw.
Yep.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There you go. All right, Kyle, you're number one.
So for those that don't know, when Hysteria came out, the iconic cover that we all know and love was split like a tic-tac-toe board into 9 pieces, and then with each single that came out with Hysteria, there were B-sides. those songs, I actually found the pieces. This is what my bedroom wall looked like.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So I had all the 45 sleeves tacked up together like that. And I thought that was brilliant marketing. Whoever your marketing guy that came up with that idea.
I think Joe
awesome.
came up with the idea.
Is that right? Oh,
yeah.
Really? Wow, very creative. I mean, it definitely, for as fans to be able to buy each single as they came out on 45, it was like getting another piece of the puzzle. But months would go by before the next piece came out. And so I loved all those songs: Ride Into the Sun, Tear It Down, I Want to Be Your Hero. I took my Hysteria cassette, my store-bought cassette, and recorded it onto a blank Maxell cassette, and I added all those B-sides. That was my version of Hysteria. So to me, all those
pretty much did the same thing.
Yeah. It's funny. Roie and I have had conversations. We could have hung out as teenagers.
Part-time bootleggers, eh?
Yeah,
a little bit.
Right.
A little bit.
Well, I got I'll tell you another story that I did, but go ahead.
But of all those four, Ring of Fire. Ring of Fire is my favorite Def Leppard song ever. Forget about deep cut, hit, whatever. How heavy and driving and riffy it is. You got the chunky guitar riff, and then you got the really melodic part. Joe's almost screaming, and that driving drum beat, Mr. Halen, like you might have been responsible for a couple of speeding tickets when I was a teenager, because I drove a red 1978 Formula Firebird, and anytime that came on, which is often, I would drive really fast. And now as a 50-year-old dude, I drive a red hybrid Prius, much better gas mileage, but I still drive really fast when Ring of Fire comes.
Good.
Mission accomplished. Well done.
I'm glad you brought up that song. It would be my number 6 on this list, but because I'm a huge fan of it. And getting those B-sides, that was such a cool thing you guys did, adding different songs on as the B-sides. You really started to look forward to what the next thing is going to be. I mean, I must have played Tear It Down 1,000 times.
Tear It Down
before before Adrenalize came out. So Ring of Fire was definitely one of my favorites. I wanted to always find out about you guys played Ring of Fire live, and I only know of one time, but I don't know if it was more. You opened a show in New York once with it that I actually have as a bootleg video I found somewhere, because I found out that you played it at that show. I'm like, well, I got to see that. But what was the story behind that, if you even remember that happening?
You're talking about Ring of Fire, right?
Yeah. Because it's such a strange choice to pick to even play.
No, I know it is. I mean, the story behind the song is basically, walking into an Indian restaurant and ordering it as hot as you possibly can. the gift that keeps on giving. But no, I don't necessarily remember playing that very often. But when we did, it was exciting. It was an exciting departure. It's nice to play songs that you don't play every single night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
No, that's cool.
Well, yeah.
All right. Well, good. I think definitely this song should be on this list. And Kyle, I thought for sure you'd pick it, but I'm gonna go with no-brainer pick for me, Gods of War. That's my number one.
Wow.
So great.
The big Prog epic from Hysteria, which is so, you get through listening to side 1 and your mind's blown by all of like what's going on there sonically, and hit after hit after hit. And then you put on side 2, this is as a kid I'm talking about, and like Gods of War comes on, and it's just like a complete mind-blowing kind of like, where did this come from? How is it even on this album?
I mean, you saw the sort of, I was paying homage to Steve Clark. That whole sort of discordant, sort of almost like Indian in form intro. Not too many people know what we're talking about, but that was just, it was epic. It really was. I just remember standing there, watching Steve and just going, I miss you every day.
Was he, I mean, that song in particular, musically, I mean, was he like the driving force behind how that one was written, the kind of musically, or?
You can always tell where Steve had a huge hand, because there was always this this mystical sort of element, this discordant. Maybe it was classic. It was his classical sort of training. I'm not sure, or his love of Jimmy Page of Zeppelin.
Sure.
But you could always tell where Steve was involved.
Yeah. And just my favorite part of this, the background vocals in the chorus. That was just brilliant. That's just the best part of that song. It's so good. Yeah, Lick, man, we covered so many great songs. This is a super, super treat for us. It's a podcast I would have wanted to do for a long, long time. Rick, I can't thank you enough. Again, I want to give you another shout out to the shows coming up next week as we're recording this. So May 20th, May 21st, May 22nd in Las Olas, Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Boca Raton Town Mall. RickAllen.com for dates. Again, Rick, I hope you can tell we've listened to a few Def Leppard songs in our day.
I'd say so. I'm very impressed.
Thank you, man. Thank you for all the great music. Thank you for being who you are. Amazing drummer, humanitarian, all of that. Good luck to you with everything. We'll see you on the road.
It's been great fun, man. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
I'll see you guys again soon, okay?
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.